point. I want to take we're getting some awesome questions in the Q&A, and we're going to get to those. Thank you. Keep them coming. Just to level set for everyone, Allison, you used the term phishing. I just want to make sure everyone, how would you define phishing? And that may seem like fundamental, but I think language is important. So let's understand what we're talking about there. What's the 30,000? What does phishing mean to you?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question, and thank you for bringing it up. So phishing is, again, one of the things that we see on an almost daily basis from both DNC staff and information we're getting from the ecosystem. Phishing is essentially when attackers will play tricks on you to get your password. These kinds of tricks, so when I say that these are like humans, this is part of it. So sometimes it's easy to think about cybersecurity as like robots, but it's not. It's human people, it's human beings behind these computers. And because they're humans, they understand our flaws, weaknesses, and things that may cause us to click on something that we're not supposed to and enter information we probably don't want out in public. So this includes our passwords. So phishing in its essence is basically when someone sends you a thing to get your password, and they're going to make it as tricky as possible. Some of the examples that I see all the time are things that may pretend to be an Office 365 login. Oh, click here. Somebody shared a link. Just enter your password in here and you can view the document, but you don't know what it is. You don't know who it came from because they want your password. Another example of this that I have seen over the last couple of weeks that's actually fairly convincing is actually in text messages, because they know, because they're human beings, know that we're not on our email on our computer all the time. They know that we're on our phones all the time. So they're going to try to phish us through text message. And so an example of one that I've seen says, hey, Allison, we authorized your payment of $352 to blah, blah, blah name on your PayPal. Click here to verify this transaction. They're maybe hoping that I freak out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't authorize that transaction. And I click the link and I enter my PayPal information, and that's how they want that. That's how phishing works. They want your password. They're going to make it as tricky as possible and convincing as possible to make you enter your password. And so that's why if you go to our DNC security checklist, one of the things we talk about all the time in there is two-factor authentication, because that is going to protect you from all of these commodity kind of normal phishing attacks that we see across the ecosystem, just being a person who exists on the internet. And because the reason why two-factor is really important is, say somebody got your password, they would have to be prompted to add that second factor of authentication, but they wouldn't be able to produce that even if they had your password from whatever reason. And so that's why we want everybody in the ecosystem to be enabling two-factor authentication. It's becoming more popular these days, which is really great, but we want to make sure that everybody does it on all of their systems, your email, your Facebook, your Twitter, your bank accounts, your PayPal, because all of these things are valuable to us and they're valuable to criminals as well.
So that's a great segue into it. The second question I wanted to ask, and I think what people are asking in the chat now is, we're like, what are the basics that campaigns should be implementing? Like making these accounts safe, making your devices safe. You've mentioned two-factor authentication. You've mentioned the DNC security checklist, which I believe Colin is sharing in the chat, and that's a free resource anyone can download and use, right?
Correct. The DNC security checklist is at democrats.org/security. It is a PDF document you can download, print out, save, and share with your friends and family members. It is a free resource. It outlines a lot of things you can do to protect all your devices and accounts. It is designed for anybody. Most of the things in there do not require money, just a little bit of time. And I know time is money, but it'll save you that hour or so you spent securing your devices and accounts will be much less painful than the God knows how many hours it takes to get your accounts back if they are compromised. I promise you that. So that's my one big sell on that, is a lot of the things on there don't cost money. There are things like making sure your phones and your browser and your laptop are updated. That's one of the key things in there. You know, sometimes iPhone pushes out an update and it's got cute emojis and stuff like that, and that stuff's really great. But a lot of times it actually does include security updates, because once these security updates are identified for them to fix, they're also identified for attackers to go after, which is why it's really important to keep all of your phones, iPads, Chrome browsers, laptops, all of it updated. Great first step. Before you go out there and buy some crazy software that's really expensive, update your phone. Second thing to do, two-factor authentication. Doesn't cost money. A little bit of time to like go in there and turn it on and enable it, but it's not going to cost you money. However, security keys they do cost a little bit of money. Michael can probably talk about this as well. And that's going to get you the 100% protection against phishing for some of those accounts. So those are kind of some of the things that we recommend everybody to do in the ecosystem. We require all of our DNC staff to do it. And we hope that everybody does it. You know, I tell organizations and other campaigns all the time, I just tell them, take our checklist, copy paste it, put your own logo on it. I don't care. I just want everybody in the Democratic campaign ecosystem to be doing it. That's a lot of talking for me. So Michael, I don't know, you want to talk about other things that campaigns and orgs can be doing?
Yeah. First of all, you know, I'm going to 100% endorse using multi-factor authentication, or as I like to say, use the strongest authentication available for the services that you use. Sometimes that's going to be, you know, all you can get is an SMS text, which is, by the way, the weakest form of MFA, but it's better than your password, right? So use the strongest. The strongest is using a security key, which is basically a little piece of hardware. I don't have my keychain on me, but I'd show it to you. It's a little piece of hardware that you stick into your computer, not every time you log in, only when your computer asks for it, that really creates really a bulletproof environment for you. And if you're using Google Workspace, you can turn on something called Advanced Protection Program, which provides even an additional layer of protection over their normal MFA. So you always want to look at your services. And these keys, by the way, can be used on Facebook, they can be used on Twitter, they can be used all across because they use what's called a FIDO. They're FIDO compliant, which is a standard for authentication across the internet. Excuse me. So strong authentication, absolutely number one. Protect your website. Number two, you know, your website probably developed by somebody else. Maybe it's developed by a friend. Maybe you did it yourself. You need to protect your website. I see we have a question about that in the Q&A. So what we recommend here, there's a couple of things to do, but the easiest thing to do, there's a company called Cloudflare. They have a freemium product. It's free for everybody. You can go register your website with Cloudflare and they will protect you from what's called a distributed denial of service attack. That's where they try to take down your website by crashing it with people trying to come into it. It's free. You can do it. It's pretty easy to set up. And by the way, a lot of these things I talk about, DDC has a knowledge base at our website, defendcampaigns.org/resources. You'll find our knowledge base. We have step-by-step instructions about how to turn on Cloudflare there. That's what that knowledge base is about. It's actually to help you do all this stuff. Your website, strong authentication, use a password manager. I mean, you still need passwords, unfortunately, in this day and age. Use a password manager. There's some that you have to pay for sure, but both if you use Edge or you use Chrome, they all now have password managers built into them. They're really easy to use. It's better than nothing, and they'll help you generate strong passwords. And finally, I think these are the four things that we sort of think everybody has to do. Using encrypted communications, right? Campaigns need to communicate with people. Some of those people, those discussions need to be private. If you're using Signal, you're using encrypted communications. But there's Wicker, there's other ones out there that you can use for your campaigns. The key here is to establish the policy about what gets shared in what channel. Communicating with your campaign staff or your volunteers or even your family members, for that matter, if they're part of the campaign. What do we share in this very protected channel versus what do we share in email? And establish that culture of security around those things. But like I said, our knowledge base talks about all these and has step-by-step instructions on a lot of these things, including a little video, how to turn on MFA on Facebook. So really try to help people get this done.
Oh, that's fantastic. You even have a video. That's great. That's that best practice here from the training committee you're already implementing on how to train people. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
This is excellent, excellent stuff. Rose had a question about security keys, and we've mentioned those a couple of times. She wanted to know more about them. Like, where can those be purchased? How often? And do you know what the cost with those would be? So I think there's some questions about like, what are security keys? Can you talk a little more about the details of that?
You want me to take that one, Allison, or?
Yeah, I think
Sure.
that's you.
Okay, so security keys, they're made by several different companies. The two most popular though are the Yuba key from Yubico and the Google Titan security key, which Google makes themselves. They range in price anywhere from like, $20, I think, for some of the low end ones, up to can be as much as $70. It really just depends on what kind of key you get, because they're different things. But to make it simple for you, it's usually your key selection is usually based on what kind of ports you have on your computer or your phone. Right. So if you have a USB-A, you need a USB-A key. If you need a USB-C, you need a USB-C key. Some keys get fancier and they have the port for your computer, and then they have NFC, which means you can you can have your phone and you can touch your key to your phone, and that will open up your account for you. Right. Totally cool. Your phone, in some cases, can also be a key. If you have a later Android, I think a later Apple, I'm not sure, maybe over 11 or 12, it may have a security token, they're also called token, built into it, and you can actually use your phone as a key. So you might already have one. You might be walking around with one right now and don't know it. You can find that out when you go to log in these services. They are, they do cost money, but I'm telling you, it's the best $25 to $50 you can spend on security. If you spend not a nickel anywhere else, not a dime, and you buy a key, you've done more than you can do in terms of improving your security from where you are now. I could say this for the rest of this hour. I could repeat that because that's how important it is.
Well, we do teach here that repetition is the key to getting
Ooh, that's a pun too.
When I taught a class at DePaul University here in Chicago about how to run campaigns, and it was that was a question on the test: is what is the key to getting your message across on page 1 of the final exam. On page 3, it was the same question. On page 5, it was the same question. And some people would get it. I had a few students who were who didn't quite understand what was going on, but yeah. Absolutely. Kim, we have a request for us to speak a little slower and define some of the terms that were going on. I know we're throwing out some acronyms out there for people. So if we appreciate you letting us know how we can do this better. The crux of this is get a security token, security key. They might be available on your phone already. If you have questions about how to do these things and implement them, the DNC has checklists. The DDC, I'm using acronyms myself now, has a knowledge base with videos to help you. I would also say to all of you, the training committee, if you come on, you create an account, you can join our private Facebook group. You can ask questions there to other Democratic candidates, other Democratic leaders, other people who have been through this same process as well. Okay, and that group is there to help all of us. We have trainers in there, all kinds of people who could help walk you through these things. Okay, there's another question from George here that says, Gmail and WhatsApp say they are encrypted. Is that enough for their communication? Michael, Allison, either one of you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on the the ins and outs of every single encryption model that each of these use. I mean, I think basically Gmail is, I believe, encrypted end to end. I don't think that means that in some cases they might be able to see emails. We really, for that kind of communication, we really propose that people use something like Signal or Wickr. It's really, they're just, that's what they're built for. That's their sole purpose, right? Yep. So a lot of use encryption, websites use encryption, a lot of different places use encryption, but the goal of those two products is absolute encryption for communications, yep. Right? That's what you do. So think about that for a second, because if you needed to share personal information about someone, or a spreadsheet that has a lot of data in it, or those kinds of things, attaching those and using those kinds of services to do that. And in fact, some of them, I'm not as familiar with Signal as I am with Wickr. You can actually have video calls, you can have telephone calls, you can do all kinds of things. It's not just like a text message based system. So yeah.
I will also attest some personal attestment here. The training committee, as we grow and become more prominent, we have been not victims of, but we get plenty of phishing attempts. Luckily, the staff is well versed on what to click and what not to click. We've even gone so far as people not to click valid links, which is a good problem to have. But Allison, you mentioned something impersonation earlier, right? That has happened here. I've had staff call me to say, hey, did you send me this email? Our compliance officer asked about someone asking to wire bank money because it was supposedly from me, right? And so it was train Democrats, but spelled D-A-M instead of D-E-M in the Democrat. What other things are out there that people should be aware of?
Yeah, those impersonation emails and things like that, we see them all the time. And, they could be sneakier to say they spell Democrats wrong or train wrong, but they could even just be lazy enough where they just have a generic email address that says executive director number at gmail.com, and then they email a bunch of people. But we do see those all the time. I always remind people to double check. So it's, first of all, really great that your folks called and double check to make sure, hey, did you mean to send this? Because they can be fairly convincing. It goes back to the fact that people know who we are, they know who we work with, they know that we're Democrats, they know who we interact with, they know our leadership, right? And chances are, if we saw a person in leadership, maybe an executive director, maybe a chairperson, and that's in the from name field, but maybe we're moving quickly, we haven't had our cup of coffee yet, we don't check the email address, and the email is completely bogus or Democrats is spelled wrong. But they're asking us a question, maybe something simple like, hey, can I ask you a favor? Can you go send me this file? Or it can be, can you go out and wire me all this money? Blah, blah, blah. Keep it secret. And these are things that we see first. So it's always good to double check, to slow it down. Always double check the email it comes from, especially if there's any ask of money. A lot of these money criminal groups, they're not always they may want to help, I don't know, disrupt Democratic campaigns, but they also just want money at the end of the day.
This is a numbers game for them, right? If I send out 3 million impersonation emails and
exactly, someone's gonna go and send them $200 of Amazon gift cards, and that's basically it. They're just in it for cash. So I always double check anything to do with money. Always check the email it comes from. Reach out. There's no fault in reaching out and saying hey, did you send me this email? So not replying to the email, but calling them on the phone, like we used to, and saying, hey, did you send me this file? Did you make this ask? Because it's always good to double check rather than move really quickly and then find out, oh my gosh, where did I wire this money to?
Can that get back? No.
Yeah, I just want to add, can I add one thing to that? Because I think this is,
please.
I just want to say that not all these emails come from these email addresses that actually can be discovered to be fake when you look at them. Because one of the goals in this is to actually get into accounts, right? And to send emails from accounts that are legitimate, that look legitimate, right? So right. You may just, the most recent example was the USAID hack. I don't know if people saw that, but they got into USAID, which is a government agency which works with, across the world, helping countries do all different kinds of things. So they got into the constant contact, right, of USAID, sent an email to all the civil society groups, right, in USAID, who are going to open those emails and look at them. And if it says click here, they're going to do it because that email account was hacked. And that's when Allison was talking earlier about your personal accounts and getting into those things. That's one of the outcomes, right? If I can get into the campaign account and I can send somebody to the finance people saying, pay this invoice, and it really looks like it comes from your account, I'm probably going to pay it, right? So that's, you just have to understand understanding the motivation at some level, I think is can be helpful in sort of framing your understanding of the whole issue.
Right. I mean, this kind of attack is called business email compromise. You may see it short formed as BEC. And like Michael said, what they do is they compromise a real system. So the email looks real. It may look like it came from the campaign or a vendor or like a real person in the space. And they'll be sending out fake invoices, but the routing numbers are different. So the routing numbers will be, I don't know, some offshore account. And so
Ukraine.
the next month, the next month when your real vendor is like, wait, I didn't get my payment. And then you're like, wait, but I paid it. And then you notice, the routing numbers are different. That's a real form of attack. It's a huge threat to not only political systems, but anybody it's a huge form of cyber attack right now.
Yeah. So I want to work our way through some of the questions that are asking here, and I know we had some people join us late. One of the things I also want to do is I want to take a step back and level set for everyone. First off, when I think of these type of attacks, whether it's phishing, getting you to click a link, whether it's impersonation, whether it's the denial of service, the DDoS, and I see a lot of talk in the chat there. All of these things can sound intimidating, high-tech level, like out of your control. Like, they're not, okay? You can take some simple steps that Michael and Allison are talking about that will prevent a vast majority of these very easily, right? This is hopefully something your campaign never has to deal with, but it is far better to be prepared and not need it than need it and not be prepared, right? So please check out the free resources that they're offering. Take advantage of this stuff. If you don't understand, just ask, right? They're here to help you as much as possible. Michael, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit of a frame to that because I think this is
Please.
important. I've been giving a lot of thought to this. I've been doing this for a long time. And in this, unfortunately, in cybersecurity, we have this fear, uncertainty, and doubt that goes on, this kind of learned helplessness and hopelessness around cybersecurity. If you read the news, every day, the Colonial Pipeline gets hacked, somebody else gets ransomware, a hospital gets and it's like, hey, look, if they can't protect themselves, what the heck am I going to do, right? To protect myself. You have to think about this in the terms of trying to prevent what might actually happen to you, not what could happen. That the news is full of things that could happen. They're full of fears that could happen, right? All these bad possible things. Researchers, hack a car, right? You have to look at what might happen to you. And I think that's what Allison are talking about. We're talking about preventing the things that might actually happen, not the whole world of could happen. And that's why these basics are so important, right? That's why understanding these threats around things like phishing and attacks on personal accounts is so important, because those things might happen in a campaign, right? And that's what you want to focus on, what might happen to us, and looking at your campaign through that lens.
So we have, I'm going to combine a couple of things. We've got some stories shared in the chat. We've got some questions in the Q&A about what happens if your account is hacked, right? And I think that account can mean different things. We have people sharing stories of their Facebook account being hacked. And I know that Facebook is not always the most responsive to things. But what do you do if your social media is hacked? What are kind of the next steps or things you can do? People are asking, do you report it somewhere? Do you just create new passwords, create new accounts? What do you all suggest? I'm
happy to go first, Allison. You might want to add to this. I don't know. So for Facebook specifically, well, first of all, let me just say something about a cyber incident. The best time to think about a cyber incident is before it happens, right? Is to have some idea what you're going to do. And really, this is, again, risk management, 101. What you want is continuity of operations, right? You don't want any cyber incident to stop you from doing what you're doing, which might mean, like, do we have a plan if we didn't have computers tomorrow? Could we still take contributions over the phone, right? Like, really simple stuff like that, right? That's what you need to be thinking about. In terms of Facebook specifically, Facebook has, for campaigns, Facebook Protect. And Facebook Protect is actually an enhanced protection for you as a campaign. And we have information about this in the knowledge base, and Facebook has information on this as well. In order to get Facebook Protect, you have to get your campaign verified, right? Blue check verified, but you can do that. And that's a pretty easy process. And you just apply through Facebook. We have information about that in the knowledge base as well. That's going to put your Facebook page under a higher kind of, I don't know what, Facebook could say it better than me, but it's going to be, looked at, not in a bad way, but like looked at in a good way for security incidents and things that go wrong, right? And that's really important, right? And that's what Advanced Protection Program is from Google too. It just puts you in a higher status where you're going to be looked at more closely, and any anomalies are going to be looked at more closely. And I believe through that process, there's also a way to report things that you see wrong. Again, 101 here, Facebook has, you can use a security key. They have other forms of multi-factor authentication, and it really raises a whole other issue for campaigns because these accounts tend to be shared, right? So you might have a campaign where 2 or 3 people have access to the Facebook account, and they're using their personal accounts to get in there, right? So you've got to add those levels of protection. But if you're hacked, you need to report it to Facebook, and if you see posts that look suspicious, you need to report them to Facebook as well.
Yes, just to piggyback on that, I think that that's absolutely correct advice from Michael, is making sure that we're prepared so that bad things don't happen. So I also want to kind of distinguish the word hacked. So sometimes, so there's account compromise where like, oh no, somebody is actually in your account. They may have your password and they're posting as you in your real account. There's also what we see sometimes as impersonations, where people may copy an account that may look exactly like you and spin up an Instagram or a Facebook that impersonates your party or you as an individual. And then they start, adding your friends, your family members, sending them DMs, asking them questions, asking them for money. So that's slightly different. And so I just want to kind of parse those out. So in terms of like account compromise, the best thing to do is obviously protect your accounts in advance. So making sure that everybody has access to your campaign account, and your personal accounts, which are also really important as we've been discussing, are protected by strong forms of 2-factor. So security keys, long random unique passwords saved in a password manager. If you don't have a security key yet, they also accept authentication apps. These are the 6-digit codes that switch every 30 seconds or so, but having some form of 2-factor authentication on there is going to protect you from account compromise. On the impersonation side, if you do see an impersonation of yourself, your family member, your candidate, your campaign, report it to Facebook immediately. There's escalation channels that you can go to them and say, hi, I am running for mayor in my town. Somebody spun up a fake Instagram pretending to be me. They're adding all my friends and family. They're asking all these weird questions. Go to Facebook for them to action on it immediately.
And let me just add to that. And not only on Facebook, but you can get YouTube verified too. So you can get your campaign verified on YouTube so somebody can't impersonate you there as well. So these are, and these are all free. They're just a little process you have to go through. And actually there's even, I don't know if you know this, there's a bunch of these out there, which campaigns users aren't aware of. When you go to Google and you Google, let's say your candidate or whatever, and on the right-hand side, a little box comes up that I learned this, I didn't know this, called a knowledge panel. Well, guess what? You can claim that knowledge panel. You can claim it so no one else can edit it, right? So these are, and that's really an impersonation thing as well, right? And so these are all things that you can do, and they're all free.
This is
the Google Knowledge Panel is something I learned about as well from the Google Civics team. So that's something to claim for your campaign or yourself if you're running for office.
And who knew, right?
I was today years old when I learned that you could claim this. I'm learning here with all of you. This is fantastic. We're getting a lot of really good stuff in here. I want to reiterate, look, we don't expect you to learn all and remember everything from this recording. That's why we're sharing the resources in the chat. Please save the chat when you leave. Go to these resources, use these resources. Come to the training committee. If you haven't signed up for our Facebook group, please do that. You can ask questions there. We want to be helpful. It's an unreasonable expectation for you to remember and understand everything about digital security by spending 45 to 60 minutes with us today. This is something that, give it a little time, and there are some best practices that you can really use to protect yourself. I also want to lift up something I think that Michael, you mentioned, your personal accounts. It is the recommendation of NDTC and in our training materials that when you run for office or you start working at an organization, make your personal accounts private. Shut them off not for the public, right? Create a campaign account that is different from your personal. But Michael and Alex are making great points. you need to secure your personal accounts as well as your campaign accounts. Both of them. Okay.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
Because some people have multiple accounts, right? You may have an account.
Point.
You may have an account with your state party or your local, you may have an account, for your business, because a lot of people running for office still have a, business account, right? They're still working in other things. So you got to kind of do an audit of everything you have, right?
Yes.
And those security keys are not tied to one single account. So your security keys, you purchase 2, which is what we recommend. You can have all of your however many personal emails you have tied to those security keys. So they're not tied to one single email address. So that'll get you pretty far.
Okay. Perfect. We have asks. We've got a bunch of questions I want to get through here. Kimberly asked, I get multiple asks for donations from Democratic candidates around the country. Is there a way to validate if they're real asks or not? Kimberly is probably one of those organizations asking you for money. Ours are real. But I will let Michael and Allison talk about the others and how to distinguish that.
I mean, I think my advice here would be pretty simple. If you see a candidate, somebody's applying, asking for money as if they were a candidate, I wouldn't click on any link that comes in that email, right? I would go and find another source to find the URL of that candidate, whether it's, using a search engine or, Ballotpedia or something like that, where you could, find, a legitimate source, because it's pretty easy to register, a URL that might, maybe it's Jane Doe for Congress and somebody, creates a URL of, Jane Doe for America. And it's like, okay, oh, well, it looks pretty close, right? So, it's really just going and verifying the validity of the URL or the campaign and looking up to see if that campaign even exists. I mean, they just got to do a little homework there. Unfortunately, not everybody follows kind of best practices, and people, use a lot of links in emails, and we're used to that, but you just have to, check it before you click it and make sure you're good.
Yeah, George is asking, are ActBlue candidates verified? George, I can tell you that candidates on ActBlue are verified. ActBlue does a fantastic job of the integrity of their program and who's on there. So obviously you want to check the ActBlue links and verify that it's going there, but the ActBlue candidates are fantastic. Full disclosure, they're a big partner of ours. We highly recommend them to people. But the steps to get listed on ActBlue, they verify the candidates and organizations. You can't just willy-nilly start collecting stuff. So you'd also be in violation of a few laws of doing that. So, okay. We are, holy cow, how is it 12:48 already? Wait a second, we just started this. Like, I don't even think I got to the third question here yet. Both of you all are working hard. You worked hard last cycle, you worked hard this cycle. Can you tell us a little bit about, some of the progress you've made on cybersecurity, but how do you plan to further support campaigns over the next couple of years? Like what's on the future? What's on the horizon? What should people be thinking about? And Michael, I'll start with you.
Okay, I was gonna defer to Allison if you want to go first, but I'll
realize I'm not doing a good job as a moderator.
It's fine. So a couple of things going on. One, obviously 2022 is the midterm that's coming up. That's a big thing for us. We haven't really talked about sort of other things that DDC does, but if you happen to be running in a federal campaign for the House, or you're running for the Senate, we actually have an FEC advisory opinion that allows us to actually donate some of these cybersecurity products we've been talking to. So if that's the case, just email us at info@defendcampaigns.org and we'll check your eligibility and we'll get you set up. So that's just throw that out there. The other thing we're doing right now is we have a national training program. We're going around the country and we're training candidates and campaigns and organizations. It's kind of widely attended for anyone. On a little deeper on what we're talking about today, right? On how to do some of these risk assessments, on a little deeper into the basics, a little bit more on how to do things like how to turn on enforced multi-factor authentication in your Google Workspace account, right? Things like that can really help make a difference, and really focusing on the free stuff. That information's at defenditcampaigns.org/events. I think the next two are September 9th, and we're doing Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and then after that, Georgia and Alabama. I think I saw some people from those states. You don't have to go to the state that you're in. That's just the way we're rolling, because we have to market these, we can't market the whole country at the same time. So join one at any point. They're an hour and a half. They're filled with stuff. And so that's a big piece, because we really want people to be ready. And I think our next efforts are around reaching deeper. We served about over 183 campaigns last cycle, and gave away, a lot of product. But our goal is to serve many, many, many more. There's a much bigger universe out there, and to reach down, especially to the campaigns who are less funded, who have, this is on the House and the Senate side, but to any campaign, we want to talk about the basics, and we want you all to become better educated. And we want you to take the education you're hearing today, or if you come to our training or you use the DNC checklist, we want you to take that to the next campaign you go to, right? I want to see the capacity of this field get better overall in cybersecurity. So we know people move around a lot, and they bring this knowledge to their next campaign, and they get started a little earlier. They put stuff in a little better, and the next time a little earlier still, and a little better, and until we raise up the whole sector. That's my long-term goal. Like, let's raise the cybersecurity of the sector. And by the way, it's not unique. This happens in every sector, right? Hospitals were doing a pretty bad job on cybersecurity till a few years ago, and they got hit with a lot of stuff. Retail didn't do anything on cybersecurity until the Target hack, right? That woke them up, right? They started to collaborate, cooperate, do all the things they needed to do to raise up the sector. This is how cybersecurity moves through our society writ large. The political space is just another sector that's working on maturing its approach and doing all these things. And that's what we look to do, and help guide and help make that happen for folks.
That's fantastic. Allison, you want to speak to this?
No, I love the way that Michael has said it, and I underline and agree with so many things that Michael said. I think a lot of it is culture. So we don't really have to make the justification of why security is a big deal in politics anymore. I think people get that, but it's about implementation, and it's about making sure that we get in earlier and even earlier. And I think one of the things I think about right now is all the folks that we've been training over the last 2 to 3 years. I'm known to just like shout into the void anybody who will listen to me talk about the security checklist and two-factor authentication and password managers. But what I always say is like, we move around on campaigns all the time, and we all wear 15 different hats when we move from campaign to campaign. And that's fine, and that's great. And it's not always going to be the IT person. It's not always going to be the digital person. Half the time, I think that some of the best people to implement this are HR and operations, because they're often the first people to talk to onboarding and establishing that culture at the very beginning when staff come on board to be like, hi, welcome to the campaign. This is how we run things, and establishing that baseline is so important. And what I always emphasize is, like, as Michael said, like, we hop around from campaign to campaign. You're going to carry that security key onto your next campaign. And then people are going to show up and be like, oh, security key? Oh, I have one for my last campaign. Oh, that's great. Let me just add it. And that's what we want to see. 2020 I might have trained a field organizer. This year, they may be somebody's field director. Next year, they may be somebody's campaign manager, and that's going to be awesome, because they're going to remember that training that we had and take that to the next step, and then make sure that their campaign can focus on what they're doing, which is electing Democrats.
Yep.
Can I just add one thing to that, because you touched on this just for a second, but I think it's really important. And this is about creating this culture of cybersecurity within the campaign, right? And that starts at the top. That starts with the candidate or the campaign manager saying, this is important. And by the way, this is important because why are you working on these campaigns, or why are you working in these organizations? Because you want that, your candidate, you want your issue to prevail, right? And you do not want cybersecurity to get a lack of cybersecurity to get in the way. And you need to emphasize that to your team, because people protect things that they value, right? If they value it, they protect it. And so this starts at the top. And it starts with a policy. It doesn't have to be a written policy, though we have a sample policy in our knowledge base, about, we gave you a key, here's where you use it. This is the kind of information that you share in encrypted communications, right? This is what we expect of you when it comes to this. You got to set that tone from the top. I know we have a lot of candidates on this call. That's on you to really tell people this is important to me. You're working on my campaign, let's do it. So let's just want to reemphasize that because the human factor here is critical. In
right.
cybersecurity.
Making it a norm when it's like you and your campaign manager and be like, yeah, we communicate over Signal. We use this. This is just how we do things. And then as you expand out and you grow out and you hire more staff and it's already baked into your culture of your campaign, it's going to be a lot less work for you to do than if you establish it at the get-go.
I like that. And we have several people working with local orgs. We have people who are leading county and local parties. You should be a leader, not only setting the example, but telling your candidates to be doing this, right? Tell those people who are running for city council, who are running for Congress, whatever it is in your area, hey, listen, you need to take this stuff seriously. Here are 2 free resources to help you do it, right? Help them help themselves. But Allison and Michael are right on the money of creating the culture and the expected norm around this for every campaign, so that it's not, oh, they're doing something different. It's, oh yeah, it's like when we set up, we need a website because we're running for office. We need to think about cybersecurity because we're running for office, right? It's just the norm. This is fantastic. There's been a bunch of stuff going on in the chat, in the comments around saving the chat. Everyone, it depends on the device you're on, apparently whether or not you can save the chat, which might be something new for Zoom. Oddly enough, Zoom doesn't listen to us and follow all of our recommendations and advice, but it's still fantastic. We like it. We're going to send the links to all the RSVP emails we received to this, okay? So if you can't copy the chat, don't fret. We will email it to you, okay? Also, if you have any questions, come to the training committee. The account is free. Go to our Facebook group, join there. You can ask us questions directly there. We can respond in a one-to-one answer there, okay? Allison and the DNC have their resources, which you've shared. You can find those online. Michael and Defending Digital Campaigns offers free help. You can go to their knowledge base, videos, training. There are 3 organizations here, 2 full-time organizations on digital. I do this because you 2 are right there on my screen, by the way. That's why my hand gestures. I like this. People are like, what's he doing? 2 organizations who are here to help you and answer these questions to be better prepared, okay? Thank you all for giving us a little time today on this issue. We really, really appreciate it. Allison and the DNC, thank you very much for giving your time, for putting together these resources, helping campaigns. Y'all, we like to play Monday. All of us Democrats like to play Monday morning quarterback, Tuesday morning quarterback, whatever it may be, and talk about how we do things. And, the state party doesn't do this and the DNC doesn't do it. The DNC is here today giving you free stuff to help your campaign. All right, that's walking the walk. They are here for free to give you free stuff to help you with your questions. Take advantage of it, please. Michael, Defending Digital Campaigns, an organization whose sole purpose, Republican and Democrat, not something that happens too often anymore, to help protect the integrity of our democracy, of our republic, and your campaign. All right, please take advantage of them. Thank you both for your time and your wisdom and your help today. We really, really appreciate you having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us in.
Thank you, Kelly, for having this. Good luck to all of you.
Awesome. All right, everybody, there we sent a link in the chat there. Please tell us how we did today. I know this is a complicated topic. Some people are experts. Some people are just starting out. We wanted to give you tools and directions to understand where to go from here. Let us know how we can do this better next time. We always want to improve. Thank you all for the work that you're doing in democratic politics, the time and money that you give to your campaign, other campaigns, local orgs. It's because of you that Democrats are doing so well. A blue wave doesn't happen on its own. It's because people like you are out there. Thank you from me. Thank you from my family. Thank you from NDTC. We appreciate it. All right, everybody, we're gonna close out. I get to do another countdown. So I'm going to count down from 5 to give you a chance to do any last minute stuff, the link for the valuation, and we will send the links around in an email, I promise. Bye, everybody. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, I'm Kelly Dietrich, the CEO and founder of the National Democratic Training Committee. For more like this, head on over to traindemocrats.org. Thanks for watching.